Okay, so get this.
Yeah.
Today, we're
Yeah.
diving into
Okay.
reptilian aliens.
Oh, wow.
You know those shape-shifting overlords
Oh, yeah.
that are secretly running the world?
Sounds like a sci-fi movie.
It does, right.
Yeah.
But that's what makes this deep dive
Okay.
so fascinating.
Right.
We're going to be exploring a single document
Okay.
that lays out
Yeah.
the entire reptilian alien agenda.
Okay.
Their origins, their methods,
Wow.
their supposed goals.
Interesting.
Have you ever gotten that feeling like,
Yeah.
oh, someone else is pulling the strings?
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
according to this document,
Mm-hmm.
it's not someone, it's these reptilian beings
Oh, wow.
disguised among us,
Uh-huh.
manipulating human society for their own game.
Interesting. It's certainly a compelling narrative.
Right.
Yeah.
And the document starts by
Yeah.
trying to lend legitimacy to this whole idea
Yep.
by grounding it in history. They point to ancient myths and artwork
Mm-hmm.
from cultures like the Sumerians, Egyptians, and Mayans,
Oh, wow.
highlighting depictions of snake-like figures
Right.
and gods with reptilian features.
I see.
So they're basically saying that these ancient civilizations weren't just making up stories, they were
Uh-huh.
documenting actual encounters
Ooh.
with lizard people.
That's the implication. Yeah.
Wow.
They suggest that these ancient cultures possess knowledge that we've lost,
Right.
like a deeper understanding of the true nature of reality.
That's interesting, but even if we entertain that idea for a second,
Mhm.
it still begs the question.
Yeah.
If these reptilian beings
Mm.
are so powerful,
Right.
why hide it all? Why
Yeah.
not just take over?
The document addresses that
Okay.
by claiming that these reptilians
Okay.
need to maintain secrecy
Uh-huh.
to continue their manipulation.
Okay.
Overt control would disrupt the delicate balance that they've established.
I see.
They need us to believe that we're in charge,
Mhm.
while they subtly influence events from behind the scenes.
Kind of sounds like a cosmic puppet show, doesn't it?
Yeah, kinda.
But let's be real.
Mm-hmm.
If they're masters of disguise, how do people even know they exist?
Well, that's where the document gets a bit shaky.
Okay.
They present a collection of what they call evidence,
Okay.
but it's far from convincing.
Give me some of this supposed evidence.
Right.
What are they working with here?
One of their key pieces of evidence
Mm-hmm.
is a series of videos
Okay.
allegedly showing powerful figures glitching.
Glitching.
Yeah, their features momentarily morphing
Oh.
into reptilian ones.
Wow.
They claim these are accidental slips in their disguises,
Uh-huh.
like brief moments where their true nature is revealed.
So we're talking full-on lizard transformations,
Street
like
clothing.
something straight out of like a low-budget horror film.
Exactly. It sounds ridiculous, right?
It does.
But that's
Yeah.
part of their tactic.
Okay.
They present these outlandish claims alongside more plausible sounding ideas,
Okay.
hoping to blur the lines between fact and fiction.
It's like they're hoping for the so crazy it just might be true approach.
Right.
But wouldn't beings with such advanced technology
Yeah.
have mastered the art of shapeshifting?
Mhm.
Why such obvious glitches?
That's one of the many inconsistencies in
Yeah,
the narrative.
Right.
It also ignores the fact that manipulating video footage is easier than ever these days.
Yeah. Right.
Deepfakes and CGI make it incredibly difficult to determine
Yeah.
what's genuine and what's fabricated.
Okay, so the video evidence is pretty suspect.
Yeah.
What else would they have?
Another big one is personal encounters.
Okay.
The document cites numerous accounts of people claiming to have met reptilians,
Okay.
describing them as having unsettling eyes, strange mannerisms,
Mm-hmm.
and even, in some cases, a glimpse of a forked tongue.
So we're not talking about spaceships and abduction scenarios.
Not really, no.
It's more like these subtle, unsettling interactions.
Exactly. They prey on those moments
So,
where we feel a sense of unease or distrust towards someone,
Right.
that gut feeling that something isn't quite right.
Mm-hmm.
The document exploits that instinct,
Okay.
suggesting that those feelings might be a sign you've encountered a reptilian in disguise.
So they're turning everyday social awkwardness
Right.
into evidence of an alien conspiracy.
Pretty much.
But let's be honest.
Yeah.
Don't most of these personal encounter stories sound more like,
Yeah,
campfire tales?
they do. Yeah.
Is there anything more concrete?
Not really, unfortunately.
Okay.
The document relies heavily on anecdotal evidence
Mm-hmm.
and subjective interpretations
Right.
of events that could have much simpler explanations.
Okay, so we've got ancient myths,
Yeah.
glitching videos, and spooky encounters. Not exactly a slam dunk case
Right.
for reptilian overlords.
Yeah.
But You mentioned earlier that the document is surprisingly self-aware.
It is.
What did you mean by that?
They actually dedicate a whole section to addressing the skeptics,
Okay.
acknowledging the lack of concrete evidence
Mm-hmm.
and the logical inconsistencies in their theory.
So they're not just blindly pushing their agenda.
No.
They're aware of the holes in their story.
Absolutely.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, it's a clever tactic, actually.
Okay.
By acknowledging the criticisms,
Right.
they create an illusion of balance,
Okay.
as if they're engaging in a genuine debate
Uh-huh.
rather than simply pushing a predetermined narrative.
It's like they're saying, we know it sounds crazy, but we've considered all the angles.
Right, exactly.
That can be very disarming for someone who's
Yeah.
just starting to explore these ideas.
Yeah.
It makes them feel like they're being let in on a secret, like they're part of a select group that's
Right.
privy to information that the sheeple, as they're often called,
Yes.
are too blind to see.
Exactly.
Ah, the classic us versus them tactic.
Oh.
Always a good way to solidify a group identity. But even if we set aside the reptilian theory itself,
Yeah.
it's fascinating how this document, even unintentionally,
Hmm.
reveals so much about human psychology.
It does.
You know, this need to find patterns
Right.
to make sense of the world,
Mm.
even if it means inventing elaborate conspiracies.
Absolutely. It speaks to our innate desire for order,
Right.
a sense of control
Mhm.
in a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable.
And perhaps a little bit of that thrill of the unknown, too.
Yeah, definitely.
The excitement of feeling like you're in on a secret that most people are oblivious to.
I think there's definitely an element of that as well.
Yeah.
It taps into our primal curiosity,
Right.
our fascination with the hidden workings of the universe.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Before we delve further into the psychology behind
Mm-hmm.
belief in conspiracy theories,
Right.
I think it's worth circling back to
Yeah,
something
yeah.
we touched on earlier, the document's emphasis on the reptilians' need for secrecy.
Right. The whole idea that they're pulling the strings from the shadows.
Yeah.
Manipulating global events without us even realizing it.
Exactly. And that notion
Mm-hmm.
that there are hidden forces controlling the world
Right.
is a common theme across many conspiracy theories.
Okay.
It speaks to a deep-seated fear of the unknown,
Right.
a sense that we're not truly in control of our own destinies.
It's like that feeling when you're a kid and you realize your
Yeah.
parents aren't all knowing.
Right.
Like, they make mistakes.
Yeah.
They don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
It's unsettling. Right?
It is.
Like the foundation of your world has shifted.
Precisely. And as adults,
Yeah.
we face even more complex challenges, global issues
Mm-hmm.
that seem beyond our grasp.
Okay.
So it's natural to seek explanations,
Right.
to try to make sense of the chaos,
Yeah.
and sometimes a conspiracy theory,
Yeah.
with its clear-cut narrative of good versus evil, can feel more comforting
Right.
than accepting the randomness and complexity of reality.
So instead of acknowledging that things are messy and unpredictable, we invent these elaborate stories about shadowy figures pulling the strings.
Right.
It's almost like a coping mechanism.
I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Right.
Conspiracy theories provide a sense of order,
Okay.
a feeling that even if things are bad, at least someone is in control,
Right.
even if it's a sinister someone, like our reptilian overlords.
But the document goes deeper than
Yeah.
just that desire for order, right?
It does.
It also talks about the psychological appeal of belonging to a group, of feeling like you're in the know.
Absolutely.
Okay.
When you believe in something
Yeah.
that most people dismiss as outlandish,
Right.
it creates a sense of exclusivity,
Okay.
of being part of a select group
Right.
that has access to hidden knowledge.
It's like a secret society,
Yeah.
but for people who believe in reptilian overlords. You're in the inner circle, privy to information
Yeah.
that the sheeple, as they're often called,
Right.
are oblivious to.
Exactly. And that sense of belonging,
Yeah.
of being part of something bigger than yourself,
Right.
can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Especially for people who feel alienated or disenfranchised by mainstream society.
So it's not just about finding answers.
Right.
It's about finding your tribe,
Exactly.
the place where your beliefs are validated,
Yeah.
even if they're considered fringe by the rest of the world.
Precisely. And the document plays into this.
Okay.
By framing belief in the reptilian agenda as a form of enlightenment,
Okay.
like a waking up to the truth
Right.
that others are too blind to see.
Classic cult tactics.
Yeah.
Create an in-group and an out-group.
Right.
And position yourself as the holders of the only true knowledge.
Exactly.
But let's shift gears a bit and talk about the actual evidence that they present. We've talked about the videos and the personal encounters.
Yeah.
But there's also this whole thing about reptilian symbolism in art and architecture.
Right. They point to ancient artwork depicting snake-like figures and gods with reptilian features as proof that these beings have been influencing humanity for centuries. They also highlight architectural elements like pyramids and obelisks, claiming they're coded messages left by the reptilians.
So they're basically saying that every time an ancient civilization built a pyramid, they were actually sending a shout-out
pretty much
to their lizard overlords.
Essentially, yes.
Wow.
They interpret these symbols and structures through a very specific lens, ignoring alternative interpretations and historical context.
It reminds me of that phenomenon pareidolia,
where
people see faces or patterns in random objects or textures, like seeing a bunny rabbit in a cloud or a face on Mars.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It's our brains trying to make sense of the world, to find order and meaning, even where there is none.
Yeah.
And the reptilian theorists exploit that tendency, taking these ambiguous symbols and weaving them into their narrative.
So what you're saying is it's not that the evidence itself is compelling, it's that they're very good at presenting it in a way that taps into our pre-existing biases and desires.
Exactly. They're masters of storytelling. Using selective evidence and persuasive language to create a compelling narrative. Even if it's based on flimsy foundations.
Which brings us back to the importance of critical thinking.
Absolutely.
It's so easy to get swept up in a good story. Especially one that confirms our existing worldview. Or provides simple answers to complex problems.
Absolutely. That's why it's crucial to develop the skills to evaluate information objectively. To question our assumptions and to be open to different perspectives.
In other words, don't just believe everything you read on the internet. Especially when it comes to reptilian overlords.
Precisely. But even if we dismiss the reptilian theory itself, I think there's a lot we can learn from examining it. It highlights the power of narrative, the way in which stories can shape our beliefs and influence our actions.
And it reminds us that even the most outlandish ideas can reveal something about the human condition, about our need to make sense of the world, to find belonging, and to feel like we have some semblance of control in a universe that often feels indifferent to our existence.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to move on to the final part of our reptilian deep dive, where we'll explore the broader implications of these kinds of conspiracy theories and what they tell us about the challenges we face in an age of information overload and societal fragmentation.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been neck-deep in reptilian conspiracy theories. And let me tell you, it's a wild ride.
It is.
We've explored their supposed origins, their methods for manipulating humanity, and the evidence they present. But more importantly, we've been unpacking the psychology behind why these theories, as outlandish as they seem, can be so alluring.
It's been a fascinating journey.
Yeah, it has.
You've seen how these theories prey on our desire for order, for clear explanations in a complex world. They exploit our need to belong. To feel like we're in the know, part of a select group that sees the truth that others are blind to.
And they tap into our primal fears, those deep-seated anxieties about control, power, and the unknown forces that might be shaping our lives. But even if we reject the idea of reptilian overlords, I think there's a lot we can learn.
I think so too.
From examining these theories.
Absolutely.
They hold up a mirror to our society, reflecting our anxieties, our biases, and our vulnerabilities in the face of information overload and societal fragmentation.
We live in a world where we're bombarded with information.
It's true.
From all sides. Much of it contradictory or unreliable.
It's no wonder people crave simple explanations.
I know.
Even if those explanations involve shape-shifting reptilians controlling the world.
It's a natural human response. To seek patterns and narratives, to try to make sense of the chaos. But as we've seen, that tendency can be exploited.
Right.
Conspiracy theories often present a distorted view of reality.
Okay.
One that confirms our existing biases and reinforces our fears.
So they offer scapegoats,
Yeah.
easy answers, and a sense of control.
Right.
In a world that often feels overwhelming and unpredictable.
Exactly.
But as tempting as those easy answers may be,
they can lead us down dangerous paths.
Exactly. When we embrace conspiracy theories without critical examination,
Right.
we risk isolating ourselves in echo chambers.
Uh-huh.
Where our beliefs are reinforced, but never challenged.
And that can lead to a breakdown in trust.
Yeah.
Not just in institutions and authority figures, but in each other. It's like we're all speaking different languages.
Yeah.
Unable to find common ground.
Right.
Or engage in constructive dialogue.
That's one of the most concerning aspects
Yeah.
of the rise of conspiracy thinking. It erodes the fabric of our shared reality, making it difficult to address the very real challenges we face as a society.
So what's the antidote?
Yeah.
How do we combat the spread of misinformation?
Right.
And encourage critical thinking in an age where everyone has a megaphone?
It's a complex issue, but I think it starts with education.
Okay.
We need to equip people
with the tools to evaluate information critically, to recognize bias and manipulation, and to engage in respectful debate, even when they disagree.
It's about fostering a culture of curiosity.
I agree.
Where we're encouraged to ask questions, to seek evidence, and to be open to changing our minds when presented with new information.
Exactly. It's not about shutting down dissenting voices or censoring ideas, but about creating spaces where we can engage in thoughtful discussion and challenge each other's perspectives in a constructive way.
And just maybe, by understanding the appeal of these outlandish theories, we can start to address the underlying anxieties and societal issues that fuel their spread.
It's a tall order.
Yeah, it is.
But I think it's a challenge worth taking on.
I think so, too.
After all, the stakes are high. The erosion of trust and the rise of misinformation threaten not only our ability to solve problems, but also the very fabric of our democracy.
So as we wrap up this reptilian deep dive, I think the key takeaway is this. While shape-shifting aliens might be a fun thought experiment, the real threats to our society are often more subtle and insidious.
It's about being vigilant. About questioning the narratives we're presented with. And about engaging in thoughtful dialogue, even when it's uncomfortable.
It's about recognizing that easy answers are rarely the right ones.
I agree.
And that the truth often lies in the messy, complex, gray areas.
That's right.
And it's about remembering that we're all in this together, reptilian overlords or not.
That's a great point to end on.
Yeah.
The world is a complex place.
It is.
And understanding the forces that shape it requires critical thinking, open-mindedness, and a willingness to engage with different perspectives.
So the next time you come across a wild conspiracy theory, remember this deep dive.
Take a step back. Ask questions. And remember, the truth is often stranger than fiction.
It is.
But it's also a lot more nuanced.
And sometimes a lot less reptilian.
That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive.
Well,
thanks for joining us on this wild ride.
It was fun.
Until next time, keep questioning. Keep exploring and keep those critical thinking skills sharp.